To turn back time. Every year on the eve of the Christmas and New Year holidays, the media try to revive some long-dead household practices through a verbal image. In a slightly revealing tone, TV channels, newspapers, and radio stations report how on this day, the sacrificial Christmas pig is driven into every home and how the owner cuts down a thick pear stump, Christmas tree, which is lit in the evening in the hearth and burns all night, how there must be 7, 9, or 11 lean dishes on the table and necessarily a head of garlic, honey, etc. In all this, folk idyllic imagery pulses an unconscious desire to reverse time, to stop the chronotope of the earthly worker so that people can be transported to another time-space, mythical, magical and festive. The folklore above is a kind of password for this conversion, which is why it is both necessary and practically useless. Tradition is listened to and watched without being performed. Each holiday lives in the shell of some myth, and the peculiarity of each myth is that it imitates eternity, i.e., no beginning and no end. Christmas, origin. If the attributes of the Christmas New Year rituals are dissected, it will turn out that each is an old or a newer product of history. The first Christians did not celebrate Christmas. The celebration of the Nativity of Christ smoothly entered the Christian calendar in the 4th century, when the Roman Pope Julius I ordered the Saturnalia to be celebrated in honor of the Son of God on December 25. The Roman Saturnalia is the historical prototype of Christmas New Year's euphoria. The word Christmas comes from the Roman calendar, the first days of the month. They were called tristes calendars, sad calendars, because that was when the interest was paid. When they could not pay them, they said it would be done ad calendars Graecas, on the Greek calendars, i.e., on a cuckoo summer, because the Greeks had no calendars. The calendar also came from there. Santa Claus, curriculum vitae. A friend recently shared how his son asked about Santa's nationality, and he couldn't answer. He thought about saying he was Lapland, but he wasn't sure. Then it occurred to him that he was a globalist who worked for multinational companies. Still, he preferred to spare himself the additional childish questions. The question of the origin of Santa Claus has a very specific answer. He is an American. The Anglo-Saxon Santa Claus is Saint Nicholas, whom children believed brought gifts. In the 19th century, the image of the saint was gradually developed and changed to become an entirely new hero. In 1822, New Yorker of Dutch descent Clement Clarke Moore published a series of tales about Santa Claus, who arrives in a sleigh pulled by 8 reindeer and enters houses through windows. 20 years later, a Philadelphia merchant dressed up the first lived Santa Claus to attract customers. In the following decades, through poems, postcards, and drawings, the old man gradually achieved a complete look, with a red suit, a white beard, and a good-natured face. His abode outside the holiday season, at the North Pole, was also localized. The worldwide invasion of this new myth began after 1931 when the Coca-Cola Company incorporated the image into its advertising strategy. It turned out that Santa sold very well. Festive elements. Many other traditionally canonized holiday elements, such as Christmas trees, fireworks, and champagne, are also relatively modern. The Christmas turkey is something relatively new in our country. It appeared at the beginning of the last century and in the cities. In the villages, the main character of the table remains the pig. In England, the emphasis fell on Christmas pudding and mulled wine. In Germany, it is the holiday cake, Stollen. In Denmark, they eat roast goose, and in Austria, Poland, and the Czech Republic, carp is served on Christmas. Christmas cookies with ginger and cinnamon are also indispensable. In our country, the holiday would be incomplete without a fortune pie. Holiday calendar. Let's also add that January 1st is memorable only for Western civilization. For most people worldwide, the year begins at a different time. For example, the Chinese New Year is at the new moon in late January or early February, and the Jewish New Year is in September. In Thailand, it is in mid-April. Although we welcome 2017 since the birth of Jesus Christ, it is still being determined precisely in which year we live. There is no irrefutable evidence that Christ was born precisely in the first year of the new era, any more than it is inevitable that Rome was founded exactly 753 years earlier or that the first Olympic Games took place precisely in 776 BC. It is even more challenging to accept that the world was created on September 1, 5509 BC, as the Orthodox Church claims, or in 3761 BC, as the Jewish calendar indicates. However, nothing has prevented the world chronology from being built on these dates. The idea of chronology from the birth of Christ was born in the middle of the 6th century. It was quickly adopted, but for centuries chroniclers dated events both from the creation and delivery. If one date is not accurate, at least the other is certain. As we have already said, a peculiarity of the myth is the imitation of eternity, and its historical layers are not really of particular importance. Because the pleasure of the holiday is more important than its meaning.